Former President Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts related to allegations he falsified business records in connection with hush money payments. Joe Tacopina is one of the attorneys on Trump's legal team, and he joins us now.
God, I love him so much. I'm so glad Joe Tacopina is like seen as is Trump's like main lawyer, because he is such a fucking freak, dude. A delight to look at, an absolute delight to look at.
Now, Mr. Tacopina, I'm just going to jump right in. At its most basic level, it looks like what the district attorney has done here is charge your client with essentially creating a public relations plan that took bad stories and found a way to get rid of them. And instead of paying for that plan with his own money, he falsely claimed it as a business expense. Former President Trump says there was no crime. Is your defense that there was no crime at all, or that he just wasn't involved in this scheme?
There's no crime at all. It's not exactly accurate to say he claimed it as a business expense. He did not. There was no tax deduction taken here. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of stuff out there. You know, this indictment was very vanilla. I mean, it did not list the underlying crimes he's allegedly intended to cover up with those false business records, because
the DA
that's
says
what makes it a felony.
To.
So the DA says it doesn't have to what?
It doesn't have to list the crimes, that's not required by law.
No.
And among
right.
those he listed, he said taxes were one of the
crimes, but normally it doesn't have to list the crimes, but normally it does.
Wait, what does that mean? Normally it doesn't have to, dude, that's awesome. One quick counter from the TV man immediately destroys the entire argument that the Republican Party has brought forward about how this is a fraudulent case that does not need to be discussed. He said, no, he doesn't have to legally list the crime.
And among those he listed, he said taxes were one of the
crimes, but normally it doesn't have to list the crimes, but normally it does. Okay, you don't.
What does that mean? He said normally it doesn't have to list the crimes, but normally it does. Okay. That's why you should pay your lawyers. Brother, I think at this point, if Trump even paid his lawyers, he still would have a hard time, because he's burned so many of the lawyers up until this moment. You know what I mean? And by the way, for the record, I do know what he's trying to say. He's trying to say that it's not required by law, but normally it is still listed, okay? But it doesn't matter. You can say it's unusual, but you can't say it's like illegal, okay? That's all he's trying to say, but he's having a hard time saying it because he's so used to just saying, no, it's unacceptable, it doesn't happen, it's never happened in the history. You said it's illegal? See, this is the byproduct of the Republican media apparatus hammering this perspective into the minds of every American, so much so that, you know, people normalize it, people internalize it, and then they repeat it. It's not. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it is unusual. Even then, they are talking about the crime itself.
Have by law to list the crimes in an indictment, but what's to hide? Why wouldn't they bring them forward? What, to get some strategic advantage? I mean, this is not a game. You're charging the president of the United States with crimes that will never be sustained in a court of law because they don't exist. There are no tax deductions taken here. There were no filings with the FEC. FEC has come out and said there's been no violation of FEC laws. So I don't know what crimes we're talking about exactly, John.
But is falsifying business records, just as a matter of course, is not a legal thing to do? And you're saying there was no business records of any kind, whether it's taxes or otherwise? Nothing was falsified ever at all?
Not only was nothing falsified, but nothing was filed. So I could have my own ledger in my checkbook. I could pull out my pocket and write, I'm buying a horse instead of buying a car in my ledger. whatever. Maybe I don't want my secretary to see that, right? But unless I file that with an authority like the...
Yeah, see, hold up. The issue there is that, yeah, if you didn't want your secretary to see it, then that's fine. If you didn't want the public to see it, or if you didn't want like authorities to see it, then it's not fine. If you didn't want the authorities to see it because you don't want the news to go out to your wife, that's still fine. If you don't want the authorities or anyone to see it because it will ruin your chances in an election, then that's not fine. Which is why it's a really high bar to clear for the prosecutors in this regard. And yet, for some weird reason, Donald Trump is able to not clear that bar. And the weird reason, of course, is his endless interest in not paying people, coming back to, bite him in the ass.
The tax agencies, or I'm taking a tax deduction, or if I'm running for office, I have to file it with the FEC for some reason. There is no crime. I could write whatever I want in my personal ledger. There was no filing obligation. He never filed anything that would invoke a false business record claim, which is a misdemeanor, by the way.
You'll have to work that out with the DA, who says that
the law requires proving that distinction beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah, except that, I don't know if they will. And even if they do, I've told you already, it would be ridiculous for Trump to serve an extended prison sentence or anything like that. But regardless, it is quite literally, Trump is quite literally the only person who would offer receipts to investigators and authorities that, that show him very openly clearing that fucking incredibly high bar that you can even prove beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what I'm trying to explain here. I don't even think all of this is all that relevant. I don't think anything super serious is going to come out of this. But it is pretty funny that Donald Trump is the only motherfucker out there who is so openly criminal in the way that he does his regular conduct, the way he conducts his businesses, that he's the only one that would be able to not clear that fucking high bar. No pixel court cases would get thrown out easier.
there was a tax violation. Let me ask you about the former Trump Organization CFO, Alan Weisselberg. He is throughout the statement of facts here. He's currently serving because he.
In hindsight, Trump didn't have to break any law. He didn't need to pay anyone. We all found out, and he still won. He didn't lose an ounce of support over these stories. Yeah, that's another hilarious part about this is that he technically didn't even have to fucking do any of this shit, right? He didn't even have to do it. He was right when he said I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and people would still support me. When he said that, he was right. That was the most correct Trump has ever been. It's awesome.
Was convicted on 15 felonies, including falsifying business records. He's obviously somebody who can corroborate the claims of the DA. Will he appear, do you think, as a witness for the prosecution or the defense?
In no scenario will he appear as a witness for the prosecution. I mean, if you listen to his trial testimony, he all but exonerated Donald Trump in any knowledge of anything. He pled guilty to committing his own personal tax crimes. And that's a whole different case with a whole different set of facts.
Wait.
He all but exonerated Donald Trump in any knowledge of anything. He pled guilty to committing his own personal tax crimes. And that's a whole different case with a whole different set of facts and a whole different set of scenarios that happened there that, quite frankly, to me were unfair, where this guy was pressured, this 70-something-year-old guy was pressured to go forth and take pleas on minuscule things that would never have been prosecuted except for the fact that he was Donald Trump's CFO.
But so in this case, you have his handwriting.
Wait, no, part of that is campaign finance violations. Michael Cohen wasn't simply sentenced to 3 years in prison for just tax evasion or making false statements to a federally insured bank. Campaign finance violations was part of the reason why he was sentenced. That's what we're talking about. Oh, he's talking about Weiselberg? Oh, sorry. He's talking about the other Trump guy that also, the CFO that was doing a classic tax evasion scheme. Sorry. There are so many fucking people that have like done illegal shit in the Trump organization that it's hard to understand exactly which one we're talking about. You said stop texting, except like I'm not. I'm pulling information so I can bring it up here, pulling information that's helpful for the narrative that they're presenting, or at least like diminishes the narrative that they're presenting. That's why I wasn't paying as much attention as possible to what he was saying. And also because there are a lot of fucking... Also, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I can text if I want to, bitch. What do you mean? You're not my micromanager, little boss. Okay, chill out. Like, this guy is literally like an Amazon manager. He's like, time off task, time off task. Fuck you. Jesus Christ. There are too many criminals in the Trump organization. There are too many criminals in every organization, especially as it pertains to real estate developers, okay? So many of these big real estate developer companies would get into hot water and get into legal trouble if they had the same level of scrutiny that the Trump organization has gotten. That much is true. Okay? That part is absolutely true. Now, having said that, however, the one organization that is under this level of legal scrutiny is the one that the former president was the owner of. That's part of the reason why I have a hard time remembering exactly which fucking criminal we're talking about. But as far as Weiselberg, pretty cut and dry. A tax evasion scheme to basically write off things for the Trump Corporation, things that he basically substitute for a payment. Instead of getting like straight cash, straight income, he would buy things as an expense for the Trump Corporation, which is not something you can do. You can't do that.
On materials that are in furtherance.
He said, I mean, you can. Well, you clearly can't because Alan Weiselberg pled guilty to his role in the tax fraud scheme and then also agreed to testify against the company. Pled guilty to 15 felonies and admitted he failed to pay taxes on $1.7 million in income, including luxury perks such as rent and utilities for a Manhattan apartment, leases for a pair of Mercedes-Benz cars, and private school tuition for his grandchildren. He admitted to concealing those benefits from his accountant to underreport his income and knowingly omitting the income from his personal tax returns. There being a semantic dipshit, I can do it. I just go to jail. I mean, yeah, you can do it, but then you can also, if you are facing legal pressure, legal scrutiny, you can go to jail for doing such a thing. Yeah, the IRS doesn't want you to know this one cool trick, which is withholding income from the IRS. It's a super cool trick. Is Ludwig still in the chat? He was talking about how he's European and he doesn't understand this process. He said he's European. Can someone translate what's going on to me? Well, guess what, Euro boy? I think you understand that process better than anybody else here, don't you? He might have just ran away already. Oui, hon. Also, one of the funniest aspects of this particular matter, especially as it pertains to like paying sex workers hush money, is that it is probably the most European politician scandal out there. Look no further than Berlusconi, for example. You know what I mean? This is very European. This is a very European scandal. Sex scandals for politicians in Europe is like, part and parcel. You gotta have some sex scandals. Yeah, it is a rite of passage. It's like tradition. It's the equivalent of a Florida DUI? Yeah.
Of this deception. You say it has nothing to do with taxes. It may also have to do with campaign finance violations. But I mean, his word doesn't, necessarily need to testify because they've got documents.
One of the greatest lines of all time, Silvio Berlusconi, upon being asked if he had sex with a 15-year-old girl, said, "At least I'm not gay." Wait, he did? He said that? I don't even remember that. That's crazy.
Documents showing him in furtherance of this scheme. So he's not exactly helpful to your client in that regard.
Yeah. No, he's exactly helpful to our client in that regard because there is no scheme and there is no crime. Let me try and break this down very simply. There's two key elements here.
The girl was 17, by the way. Not 15. Ruby, Berlusconi sex scandal rebuttal. At least I'm not gay. Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has been racked by scandal over a week centered around the then 17-year-old Moroccan girl, Karima Kayek. Allegations have surfaced that after the girl was arrested in May for theft, the Prime Minister may have pressured the Milanese police for her release, including telling them that the girl was an Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak's daughter. While no stranger to the scandal involving young girls, this episode may cost the Prime Minister politically. And that is right. At first, Berlusconi, speaking out on this scandal, defended himself by saying, "I love life. I love women and girls." He's now taken a different tack, adding, "It's better to be passionate about a beautiful girl than a gay." Oh, Maron. Anyway, let's continue.
Was campaign money used or was personal funds used? First of all, it was personal funds. There was no campaign money used because it wasn't a campaign issue. This was done to prevent an unpleasant story.
Well, it would have been a campaign issue if it had come out during the campaign.
John,
of course it was a campaign issue.
Let me finish my answer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not a campaign issue, even though, it very clearly looks like it might have been perceived as one by the Trump organization at the time.
Key elements here. Was campaign money used or was personal funds used? First of all, it was personal funds. There was no campaign money used because it wasn't a campaign issue. This was done to prevent an unpleasant story.
Well, it would have been a campaign issue if it had come out during the campaign. Of course.
I love when they say, like, "Oh, no, it was personal money used." No, it wasn't. It was campaign funds used and then refilled with personal money down the line. Okay? So I'm pretty sure that part is not correct. Okay? These guys, they always do this shit. By the way, which is identical to literally doing the tax evasion thing, because you're just like, "Oh, no, I wasn't evading taxes because, once I got into trouble, I just, I paid it," right? Now, obviously, with tax evasion, there's a little bit more to it. Like, you literally might not have known or something like that. As long as you pay your taxes, it's fine. But in this regard, it's just like in a lot of instances, and the reason why this is considered just like a simple misdemeanor or a fine that you pay, in a lot of instances, they do this. The Clinton campaign did this. The Obama campaign did this. They'll take funds from the campaign, pay off somebody, and then refill the coffers later. Or if they don't do it, they get caught by the Federal Elections Commission, and then they're forced to pay the fine. Trump beating the case for sure. Uh-oh. Breaking. Donald Trump's former attorney, Alan Dershowitz, admits that the indictment looks grim for the ex-president and says that he probably will be convicted by a New York jury, and he doesn't think that he could get this case dismissed so easily, and it would be a problem for even the best lawyers in the history of the world. Retweet if you think that Trump is convicted. Yeah, if the Dersh... If the Dersh is saying that he's going to fucking not be able to beat the case, I don't know. The only time the Dersh can get people off is if they're doing pedophilia. So, I don't know how good Dersh knows about these kinds of violations. I don't know. Not exactly his forte.
It was a campaign issue.
Let me finish my answer. It'll get to that. So the second part is simply this. When you have personal funds used during a campaign, the rule of law is for campaign finance was that expenditure made, that payment made solely for the purpose of the campaign? Because if it was made irrespective of the campaign, then it's not a campaign finance violation. Clearly here, even Michael Cohen, when he pled guilty, said this was done in part to prevent embarrassment for the president and his family. That takes it out of the realm of FEC, campaign finance law violations. That's why the Justice Department didn't charge him. That's why the FEC didn't charge him. So you have to understand the...
Yeah, except he might have said that to cover his own fucking ass at the time. He's saying something entirely different now. And there's also additional evidence that has come to light since then. And that's why everyone is looking at David Pecker as the star witness in this case, because when you look at what the DA released, the statement of information as it pertains to the case itself, there is multiple additional forms of evidence. Like, let's say here's the, and I don't perfectly understand New York law in this regard, but it's kind of like, if you hired somebody, or if one of your cronies went and did like a bank robbery, okay? And at the time they pled guilty, they went to jail for it, and they basically said things during that process that they saved your ass on, right? They did not implicate you in the crime. And then after that, no, wrong. In this case, we believe convicted liar and criminal Michael Cohen because it helps us. No, it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't even matter if that's the reason why people say Michael Cohen is not the best witness here. Okay? Because let's say he fucking lied originally, okay? And now he did the time. After that, he's saying, actually, I was wrong. I am now, I'm now telling you the truth. That in and of itself may not be enough for any jury to convict anyone beyond a reasonable doubt, because you'll get ripped apart. Okay? You'll literally get ripped apart. You'll get fucking owned in that situation. Right? Except if additional information comes out that links you to the bank robbery itself, and there is a RICO case that is announced after the fact, then it doesn't fucking matter what Michael Cohen originally said. If it's not a crime because it was to prevent embarrassment, then it can never be a crime because realizing an affair is always an embarrassment. I agree with you, except there is some evidence that I have pointed to in this legal case that while, really difficult to charge someone with this, makes it a lot easier for Trump to be charged with this. What I'm, of course, referencing is this piece of evidence, including others, but certainly this one. The Trump case being elevated to a felony is hard to prove unless you're such a dumbass who famously refuses to pay people that you openly admit that you're trying to do this specifically for the election. Here it is. Evidence this was election driven, contra the Melania/John Edwards defense. Paragraph 19. Trump tried to avoid paying Stormy Daniels until after the election because at that point it would not matter if the story became public. Documents, emails, and texts that corroborate Cohen tried to delay payment. Paragraph 9. August 2015 meeting, 2 months after Trump announced his presidential run to plan and catch and kill election operation. Cohen instructs Pecker not to release a story until after the presidential election. Trump invites Pecker to dinner to thank for helping during the campaign. The defendant directed Michael Cohen to delay making a payment to Woman 2 as long as possible. He instructed Michael Cohen that if they could delay the payment until after the election, they could avoid paying altogether, because at that point, it would not matter if the story became public. That's the beautiful part about this story, is that if you are doing this so brazenly, the only way that you could ever actually get into legal trouble over this, something that no one ever gets into legal trouble over, is if you very brazenly and very openly said you're doing this for the election. Okay? That's it. That's it. And Trump has, especially when you see this evidence, this piece of evidence, it totally makes sense why they, in a very biased way, elevated this to a felony. Okay? Yes, to clarify, he explicitly states that his marriage is irrelevant. If the story comes out after the election, he does not care. As reflected in emails and text messages between and among Michael Cohen, Lawyer B, and the AMI editor-in-chief, David Pecker, Michael Cohen attempted to delay making a payment as long as possible. That's it. That is the only. It's so funny, dude. I'm sorry. It's just like so stupid of a story, but it's, again, so incredibly funny to me, at least, that like the only way for someone to get these trumped up charges stick is if they are so openly and so brazenly engaging in criminal misconduct without a care in the fucking world. Like they're running around telling everybody that they're fucking doing crimes. And Donald Trump literally did that. I love that. I love that shit. Thank you, Donald Trump, for this incredible opportunity. So that's why him saying like, oh, it's not for the election, it's because of personal matters or whatever, that's him being a lawyer. It's like when I tell you at the top of the hour there's a 3-minute ad break. Okay? When I turn around and debate you and blammo hit you in the face at the top of the hour ad break, I'm being a streamer. You know what I mean? But fear not, if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. You can use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. Okay? No, you're not. No other streamer does these dog shit segues. 26-month subscriber. Your words are hurtful. Parody, thank you for the 5 get the subs. Allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Is a 3-minute ad break now. I saw how you guys reacted when I said I'm no longer going to do these segues, and everyone was so fucking sad. And then when I do actually do these segues, all of a sudden everyone is mad. Anyway, let's continue.
Law here, the campaign finance law. And this is a first. A state prosecutor is bringing a violation of federal election laws. Never happened in this country before.
Final question to you about your client. Former President Trump says, I have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family. Does that help the case?
It doesn't help the case, it doesn't hurt the case. It's a statement of fact. A statement of fact based on the Daily Mail's reporting and others reporting that the judge's family members work for Kamala Harris.
But you agree that it's a Trump-hating judge.
So does it help the case or hurt the case?
It's a fact
What?
that it's a Trump-hating judge?
It's a fact. It's an opinion of someone who's been put through a political persecution, John. It's not a fact.
Yeah, Donald Trump, no other president has ever been put through this much struggle.
It's someone.
Hold
That it's
on,
a Trump,
let's hear
you
it
agree
again.
that it's a Trump-hating
The judge is a statement of fact.
judge with a question to you about
Never happened in this country.
former President Trump says, I have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family.
Your client has said that you have a Trump-hating judge and a Trump-hating family.
Does that help the case?
It doesn't help the case, it doesn't hurt the case. It's a statement of fact. A statement.
Oh yeah, just facts. No, totally. Totally. It's also pretty funny that Tacopina himself has given money to a Trump-hating politician. So that makes it even funnier. Because I don't know about this judge's background, but it's not shocking to me that a New York judge would be a liberal and would have liberal children. Okay. But no, it doesn't help that when your client is going on a fucking podium and screaming about the judge that is presiding over the case that you are trying to win. But I expect that the Trump administration, or not the Trump administration, people working alongside Trump and Trump himself will most likely raise the stakes a little further. I suspect that they're going to have some fun with this and do a little bit more trolling, do a little bit more, I'm not threatening the judge, but I'm actually threatening the judge a little bit. You know what I mean? What? Is this real? Watching Alvin Bragg, all I can think of is El Bozo plus ratio. El Bozo plus ratio. Did you get fucking hacked again? Is Ted Cruz a Hasanabi head? Is going to be an investigation that will finally lead to a conclusion eventually.
In fact, based on the Daily Mail's reporting and others reporting that the judge's family members work for Kamala Harris.
But you
Vice
agree
President
that
Harris
it's a Trump-hating judge.
So does it help the case or hurt the case?
It's a fact
What?
that it's a Trump-hating judge?
It's a fact. It's an opinion of someone who's been put through a political persecution, John. It's not a fact. It's an opinion of someone who has the right to feel aggrieved. He was in this was the same judge from the last trial, the Trump Organization trial. So there were some issues there. A recusal motion was made there. So it's his opinion. But you act like this is a normal.
Yeah, his opinion is a fact, actually.
He's been.
It's a fact, but it's also an opinion. It's not done, but it is done. It can be done, but it's not done. Dude, I love that Donald Trump's lawyer is Italian train wrecks, okay? It just makes things so much more fun. He's just straight up he's like, it's not a charity, it's a system. It's not a charity, it's a system. It's an opinion, but it's also a fact.
Been put through something that no one else, if he was not Donald Trump, he would not be a defendant. No one else would have been prosecuted in this country for this crime because it's not a crime. It's a campaign. Hillary Clinton, who actually said legal fees for a Steele dossier, which was dirt digging, got a fine from the FEC. He gets indicted for using personal funds.
30 other people have been indicted on this falsifying charge by this DA, but I understand you say that that's not what's happened
Not
here.
For campaign, not tied to
No,
federal
but for
campaign
falsifying records,
finance
which
law
is the charge
violations,
on the
John.
indictment. But for the charge on the indictment,
No,
which
John,
is,
it has to be
falsifying records.
It has to be tied to a violation of federal election campaign.
Damn, that's crazy that this judge has, got 30 other people indicted on identical charges, but only one Trump on, on potentially having to do with an election. I wonder why. It's not like that many motherfuckers are doing what Trump is doing. Like that's probably the reason why the only time you can get a Trump style case is because Trump is the only one doing shit like this.
In laws, it is not.
My guess is we're unlikely to work this out now, but Joe, I appreciate you going a few rounds with me.
We're joined now by one of Mr. Trump's attorneys, Joe Tacopina. Mr. Tacopina, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Savannah.
Well, now we've seen the indictment. We've seen the evidence that the prosecutor has assembled, or at least some of it. What was your first reaction to it? What was the former president's reaction?
Well, I mean, where are the underlying charges? I mean, the indictment actually did not list what these underlying charges are. Understand, Savannah, these false business record entries, which are...
It's a novel legal theory because how often do you have to how often do you charge a presidential nominee who engaged in a conspiracy to pay off the porn star he had an affair with in the prior election that he ended up winning and therefore became president and therefore silenced any kind of opposition to that sort of thing for the 4-year time frame where he was the president? It's like, it is the type of thing that is so unique because it could have only happened to Donald Trump. Okay? That's why when you point to like Hillary Clinton with the Steele dossier, or if you point to Barack Obama, like, and the payments that they made from campaign, from campaign funds that they replenished later down the line, and the fines that they had to pay, you literally can't compare it to anybody else. Maybe Bill Clinton, but even then, like, again, Bill Clinton did a bunch of weird shit when he was president, possibly before he was president as well, and certainly after, right? Jeffrey Epstein's bestie. Okay? Now, having said that, however, remember, he most likely hired a bunch of fucking annoying Mormons and WASPs to cover his tracks instead of operating like a gangster in the way that Donald Trump operates. That's the whole point. Like, that's the main difference here, is that, like, these are charges that are oftentimes not elevated because it's very difficult to prove with someone who is, if you hire someone who's at least like a little diligent and interested in making sure that there is no like solid paper trail leading directly back to you. Donald Trump is not that guy. Bill Clinton has done way worse shit. You said cocaine trafficking out of the men's Arkansas prison or Arkansas airport when Clinton was governor. But you bet your fucking ass when they do shit like that, especially liberals and Republicans, like these guys, when they do criminal misconduct, they at least like try to cover their tracks a little bit. Plus a bunch of convenient suicides. Exactly. But that's, again, covering up your fucking tracks. Donald Trump does not do that. This does not mean Bill Clinton should not go to prison. He should. Absolutely. But Donald Trump is an explosively stingy, explosively petty, and incredibly careless person. Does that make sense? Like, all of these guys are criminals for the most part. It's just that Donald Trump is not just a criminal. but he's also a very bad criminal. Like, he's not good at doing the crimes. That's the main difference here. You okay, Chatter?
Are not even false, are misdemeanor counts, which would not be able to be brought at this point. The statute of limitations is long gone. The only way to make this a felony is to gobble together a couple of misdemeanors, the false business records and the attempt to cover up another crime. But the indictment doesn't even list what the other crime is. So it was a little disappointing, a little bit of a relief, quite frankly, to see that indictment. But, you know, we're ready to move.
The DA said we have had available to this office additional evidence that was not in the office's possession prior to my time here. So he's talking about some new evidence. Are you aware of what that might be?
There's no new evidence. That's spin. I'd like to hear him articulate what that is, but there is no new evidence. I've read the statement of facts. It's exactly what we talked about. It's exactly what the United States Department of Justice, the federal prosecutors in Manhattan turned down years ago. It's exactly what the FEC, the Federal Election Committee, had said. There is no FEC violation here. It's exactly what Cy Vance, the former prosecutor in that office, turned down 3 years ago. There's no new evidence. This is just rehashing a zombie case.
The FEC, by the way, just to be fair, took no action because it was paralyzed, essentially. Two Democratic commissioners wanted to move forward, two Republicans didn't.
Well,
they were at an...
Bro, if you're getting cooked by, like, the dude, if you're getting cooked by morning show hosts, okay, you are, like, they are going to make mincemeat out of you in the New York courts, okay? Like, that's crazy. This is two in a fucking row. We're watching daytime news anchors rip into his, like, solid case. The funniest part about this, there's so many funny components about this, from, like, the lawyer basically being train wrecks, to how funny the crime is, or how minor it is ultimately in the grand sea of things, because Trump has done so many other things that are way worse. I think that I don't even know what to say about this issue, but probably the funniest part about this whole process is that almost everyone knows it's incredibly biased. According to the CNN study, 76% of Americans said that this case was biased, okay? And yet 60% of Americans think the indictment is valid, which means there are Americans out there, plenty of them, that are like, yeah, no, it's fucking biased, but also lock his ass up. Like, 76% of Americans think the court, this entire case is biased. It's motivated by politics. 60% of Americans on the same poll say it's good that it's happening. That is the most important piece of information that you need to know about everything that's going on right now.
Impasse, were they not? I mean, it's not. It's not. They didn't weigh in on the merits.
No, they were not. Well, no, they actually did. The chairman, Bradley Smith, has been on every news outlet saying there is no FEC violation. Let me say this to you. The FEC, for this to be a federal election law violation, what has to happen is the payment had to be made because it was done with personal funds, not like John Edwards or Hillary Clinton's campaign issue. This was done with personal funds. For it to be a violation of federal campaign law, it had to be done irrespective. The payment would have had to be made irrespective of the campaign. If the payment was made irrespective of the campaign, there's no FEC violation.
Well, let me ask you about that.
This is not done exclusively for the campaign.
Yeah, because you're saying, I understand the argument. You're saying, look, this can't be essentially a campaign contribution because he wanted to make this payment to make this story go away for his own reasons, right? Maybe so Melania doesn't find out or something like that. Nope. If that's the case, here's the thing that I've always wondered about this case. If this is all on the up and up, Why did he pay Michael Cohen back in installments pursuant to a retainer agreement for legal services that prosecutors say did not exist?
Michael Cohen invoiced him in installments. He invoiced him. He upped it from $130,000 to $400,000+.
Yeah,
so
but with the knowledge of like the Trump organization and the CFO, and I mean, it's like if it's all up and up, why doesn't he just write a check and be done with it?
He did write a check. He wrote several checks. That's how payments are made. It was a massive amount of money for a lawyer, $410,000, especially a lawyer who doesn't really.
Savannah has a JD degree, by the way. She knows what she's talking about, and it's obvious. Yeah, but it doesn't matter what your background is. When you get to the position of daytime anchor, your goal, quite literally, is to never rock the boat. My statement about her performance here is more about like where. My statement about her performance here, and she is cooking him, is that daytime anchors, regardless of what their fucking background is, regardless of how intelligent they may be, are not there to eat their guests alive. Right now, she's cooking, which implies that, you know, when you get cooked by the daytime anchors, it's like there's only one group of people that you could be cooked by that's even worse. That means you have no fucking cases, like The View. You know what I mean? Their job is not to do that. Yeah. This isn't even like Don Lemon. You know what I mean?
Do anything, and he wound up making those payments in installments. Savannah, that is not even alleged to be a crime or a problem. If he wanted to cover this up, he could have paid in cash, as Michael Cohen once suggested on a recording, which Donald Trump said, absolutely not, we need a record of this. Listen, the fact of the matter is,
and just to be clear, I'm just curious about this. Donald Trump acknowledges authorizing these payments. That is not a fact in dispute in this case.
Of course, he eventually authorized the payments. What he also acknowledged is that he didn't know about the settlement before he found out about it at a later point. Understand this, Michael Cohen.
Wait, you can't. Wait. That's so dumb. There's like literally, there's evidence that he fucking knew about it, and these payments were fucking happening, and then he even thanked them after. Bro, come on, dude. Oh, dude, this guy is so fucking owned. Oh my God. He's the type of lawyer to lose a jaywalking case. Dude, oh my God, this is my lawyer, dog. I'm going to jail, okay? What? Watch him going on TV and stating?
Does anyone actually believe, anyone, left, right, middle, whatever, that if someone else were accused of paying hush money to avoid a public sex scandal in the manner that Donald Trump is alleged to?
Wait, is this defendant Trump's lawyer Joe Tacopina's view exactly 5 years apart? Okay, first of all, yeah, I'm sure he said some fucked up shit back in the day. We'll get to that in a second. Let me finish this first.
Arranged that with Stormy Daniels' attorney. Michael Cohen took out a home equity loan to finance the settlement, and he signed the settlement agreement. Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's name is not on that settlement agreement.
Let me ask you this. The judge, he said, I'm not going to issue a gag order. He said, nothing even close to it. But then he said, I would encourage counsel on both sides. People, please speak to your witnesses. Now for you, defense counsel, speak to your client, Donald Trump, and anybody else you need to, and remind them to refrain from making comments or engaging in conduct that, among other things, has the potential to jeopardize the safety or well-being of any individuals. Did you tell your client, did you do what the judge asked you to do and advise him to knock it off?
President Trump heard the judge. He's not done anything to try to incite violence. Clearly, yesterday was an insane scene outside, but there was no violence. He didn't call for violence. He didn't call for anything. Well, so there was that. And the reason the judge didn't admonish him or post a gag order, because he didn't do anything that would have incited violence. That's the key, inciting violence, not protesting. Protesting is what we did in this country. You know, that Boston Tea Party thing? It's fine, as long as there's no violence to it. And he didn't incite violence. I'm
reading it. It's a very particular, because last night, Trump, again, after he heard these words, he talks about,
like, not only did he do a bad job of defending defending his client against the facts that have been found in this investigation, he's not even doing a good job defending his client after the investigation was concluded, after the arraignment occurred, and he's like routinely doing his very best, Trump is, to fuck up, to ensure that this judge is the least favorable to him. Like, it's so great. It's great. It's great. It's wonderful. I love this. I love this so much. Watching people fuck themselves over this aggressively, always great.
The Trump-hating judge mentions the judge's wife and sister, goes after the prosecutor. The judge said anything that could jeopardize the safety or well-being of any individuals. I mean, Donald Trump knows his followers are devout.
Savannah, can you take those words and say that jeopardized the welfare or safety of an individual? He's stating a fact that was written in the Daily Mail, the largest online publication in the world, where they uncovered the fact that some of the judge's family members work for Vice President Harris. I mean, that's a relevant fact here. It's not an attack on the judge or certainly his family. No one is suggesting that anything should happen to the judge or his family. And President Trump's comments did not in any way, shape, or form incite violence against the judge or anyone else.
As a lawyer, I mean, this works for him politically. They've raised boatloads of cash, okay? It's in the short term at least. Yeah. Would it be better for his legal case, you're his lawyer, if he stopped criticizing the judge and the judge's family? Do you wish, like, if you could wave a magic wand, that he wouldn't do that?
Savannah, I am laser focused on the case, like you just said, the legal case. I am not his PR consultant. I'm not his social media consultant. And when I took this case on to represent the president, I knew who the president was. He's someone who is vocal. He speaks his mind. Sometimes there's no filter. It's direct. But that's him. That's his methodology and his style. And it got him into the White House. So it's not for me to tell him how to act. Of course, he's going to.
No, wait, first of all, no, you literally should. Like, you're his lawyer. What the fuck? Wait, that's so dumb. No, that's your job. Like, a part of your job is to ensure that your client is not fucking, like, telling the judge overseeing your case that he is a biased piece of shit, and this is his daughter who's also biased. Like, no, you should definitely offer him some counsel as his legal representative. Oh, it's not my job to tell my client that, you know, that he can kill the fucking judge. Like, no, it is your job. Like, that's definitely part of your job. Okay, but not publicly, though. I mean, regardless. Not doing a good job.
To comply with the judge's rulings and the law, and he has, by the way. That's why the judge didn't come close to it and giving a gag order yesterday or even admonishing him. But I understand what you're saying, but there's no issue here. Yesterday was actually an incredibly peaceful day, insane but peaceful. And that was thanks to the Secret Service, NYPD, Dennis Quirk's Court Officers Union. They were amazing. So it was really, for a day that was insane, it was pretty smooth.
Final quick question, yes or no, if you can. Do you feel that you can get a fair jury in Manhattan?
I feel that we're not going to get to a jury, Savannah. After seeing that indictment and knowing what the law is regarding federal election campaigns, I don't think we're getting close to a jury. I think this case is going to fall on its merits, on legal challenges before we get to a jury. If we get to a jury, I think any person, whether they're on the right or politically opposed to Donald Trump or in favor of him, is going to see this for what it is. It's weaponization of the legal system. It's something that this country never did before and hopefully will never do again.
Joe Tacopina, always.
Joe Tacopina, let's hear what he had to say over here about fucking Donald Trump over here in his case.
Does anyone actually believe, anyone, left, right, middle, whatever, that if someone else were accused of paying hush money to avoid a public sex scandal in the manner that Donald Trump is alleged to have avoided a public sex scandal, they would be prosecuted? The answer is 100% no. If there's an issue with that payment to Stormy Daniels being that it was made on behalf of the candidate, okay, and it was not declared, that's fair game, unfortunately, if that's the case. It's an illegal agreement, it's a fraud. If that's in fact the case, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't pass the straight face test. And quite frankly, if that is what happened, we have a potential campaign finance issue.
God, lawyers are so awesome. Lawyers are so fucking sick, dude. They're so nice with it. They're so fire. It is what it is. What the fuck is this? What? Dude, why are you fucking linking dumb shit like this? God damn it. I mean, this is why, like, there are so many memes about lawyers. Like, oh, what's the... Like, the most famous joke is, like, what's the difference between a hooker and a lawyer? The hooker stops fucking you after you die. Like, I'm sure you've heard... I mean, these are, like, boomer jokes and boomer references at this point, but, like, there's a reason why they're fucking cliches. You know what I mean? It's such a boomer joke. I know. It's just like, but it also kind of shows you, again, it's a cliche, but it also kind of shows you exactly how the fuck this works.